So the whole beer is to explain the Chodesh haLevana that happens every month, what it means beruchnis, and that's precipitated dafke by ki pocket Moishe, your place is empty, which is the begashmius, the moon's disappearance. So a beer began in the union of Zman. That there is Zman, Gashmi obviously, and then there's time that the Medrash calls Seder Azmanim, that precedes actual time. So it's all relative, but the union of even Seder Azmanim in the classical sense begins post Malchus. Melech, Molech, Yimlech. Malchus is the source of Gvul, of time, Ruchni. But then, Bedakus, there's the union of Zman in terms of Kedima ve'ichod, higher and lower levels that exist even before Malchus. So he went into whole arichos explaining, for example, Chachma and Bina, that Bina can only, what is Zman? The definition of Zman, Rotzav Shuv, means that a moment is replaced with another moment. The moment leaves, that's the Rotzui, and the Shuv is the Amshach of a new moment. So, even higher than Malchus and Chachma and Bina, as he used, without repeating the whole Arichos, Bina can only emerge once Chachma has departed completely. In terms of Chachma, only the conclusion. And likewise, in Seichel and Midas, even though Midas are born from Seichel, but Midas cannot emerge as long as the person is in the world of Seichel. What he has to be left with is the Bechein, only the conclusion. That's what we're up to. First he began with Malchus. First he said it starts Malchus, and like a relative, then he said, and Bemis, even before, there's also this Inyan. Not as hardcore as Hashem Melech, Hashem Molech, Yimlech, but Seder Azmanim continues ever higher. The example of? Yeah. That Rav had an Atiyah to Isra Heter, then they asked the Kasha, and he was silent, didn't respond, but didn't retract, which is in Chachma itself, then an Atiyah to a particular Isra Heter one way or another, like we learned Shama and Hillel, both the Kabbalah for Shema and Naphtalian. So even that level, which is not the pure Chachma because it could entertain another expression, even that level, he's saying, has to depart in order for the Bina to truly emerge. As long as we're still in the world of possibly entertaining, even subtly, objectivity, or another solution, then Bina can't begin its work. So it's all to bring out the Rotzev Shuv, the Zman component, meaning, again, the nature of time is the moment is gone. So, and the Ruchni is the same minyan. In order for the lower level to emerge, the higher level has to be removed, has to be eclipsed. Now he's saying the same thing as with Seichel and Midas. Is that me? Is it a message from heaven? Always is. Seichel and Midas. So we're at the bottom of page 198. You may have a different text if you're looking towards the end of Vayz Gimel. the second last line. Second last line. So that was seichel and midas also. And even though on the one hand the midas need seichel, again without awareness, there can be no emotion, no birth of emotion. And if there is, it's not a primistic emotion, they're atzmistic emotions. The midas are rooted in the nefesh independently, in fact deeper than seichel. But we're talking about, the midas speaks about here is a primistic, internalized midah, worthy of the human being's development. So a midah that's born from appreciation, from understanding. It means in the likus, but in anything, but certainly in the likus. So the midah can only begin, the heart can only be stirred once one has moved away completely from the realm of the mind and left only with the bottom line bechein. It's a wonderful thing. Likus is good. Ta'am beru'u ki tov Hashem. So that's also the thing of Seder Azmanim. First seichel, and now midas. Now at the bottom of the page. So likewise in the midas themselves, again, this whole thing began with Zman, Lamaila starts at Malchus. But more subtly, it's even higher than that. So likewise in Seder Shtalshus, Midas Atzmam, Yeshna Seder Kedima V'ichur. There too, there is the Seder of what precedes and what follows. The Seder has to be first Chesed and then Gvura. We all know that Yitzchak is Gvura and Avram is Chesed. So the Seder is first the low level of Yira, then the low level of Ava, then the higher level of Ava, then the higher level of Yira. But at any rate, the Messiah goes back and forth there. But we see from the pasuk over here that Yitzchak ben Avraham, that's Poshet. Yitzchak is born of Avraham. Avraham heard Yitzchak. The diuk here simply is that Yitzchak comes after Avraham, and Avraham gives birth to Yitzchak. The diuk is not the various dargis here, but the precedence. From Chazal, and furthermore it says in Medrash, Shamayim horu v'yolda afela. First there was water, and the water gave birth, and there was born darkness. Darkness meaning the earth. The earth is dark. They wished to gather the waters, and then the earth appeared. Which that too, that's the Mayim is Chesed, and the gathering of the water, the containment of the water, and therefore the emergence of the dry land, which the Medrash calls Afela, is Gevura following Chesed. B'shekotzev Pardes, like the Pardes says, period, explaining the Medrash. So there's the Seder of Chesed and then Gevura. Likewise, Tiferes, Mishtal Shalim, Netzach Yehoid, Netzach Hoid Yesoid, Mechagas, they come from Chesed Gevura Tiferes. Shenetzach or Anafa Chesed. Netzach is the branch of Chesed. So, right, on the right side, it's Giloi. The Hoid and humility, thanks, acknowledgement, surrender. Anafa Gevura, that's a branch, of course, of Gevura. That is containment, acknowledgement of something other. So the whole ishtalshalos of the midas also works in an evolving state of kadima ve'ichor, and the previous level gives way to the new level that emerges. We just talked about the nefesh. Now the same way is also the maila. Even though we said before that Zman starts with malchos, nonetheless, the fact is that on a more subtle level, that since there's the union of ischalkus of different levels, if you're talking differentiation, esev le'teishar, esev le'achadosar, as it says in the Sefer Yetzirah, Hashem chose to manifest 10, not 9, 10, not 11. So when there's a system means, by definition, that the next stage operates after the first stage is receded. Can't be all at once, then it's complete confusion and chaos. That's Eilam HaToyo. Eilam HaToyo, be'emes, there's no Seder there in the same way. It's everything firing fully all at once, and therefore there's no Seder. Shezeh Inyan Seder Zmanim, so here's the Seder Zmanim. Not finished, the whole Aricha is now coming, yeah?
Normally when we say, we're talking about Chodesh, one comes after the other and so on, we make a point to say it's not actually one after another, because it's physical time. That's what I'm saying. It's true, not in physical time, but Beruchnius, in time, one comes after the other.
Yeah, I mean, we're quite limited in our entertainment of these concepts, but in an endeavor to strip it of its corporeality, it's the inyan. I mean, a Moshel Gashmi, this is not doesn't help us with time, but higher and lower, and certainly that we can appreciate. You say a person's a high intellect or lower intellect, we don't mean he's a higher grade or lower grade, we don't mean he's in a higher floor. When it comes to Seichel, it's easy to see the language of higher and lower. Before and after is more difficult.
It's more like in sequence. You can't have the second without the first, right? It doesn't mean that in physical time the first comes before the second. It means you can't have the second without the first.
Yeah, but we do think spatially. You think Chachma Binah, you think of a process of time. Chachma is finished, now it's Binah's turn. We think in time. Chesed done, now Gevurah. Avraham died, now Yitzchak. We do the best we can to try and again, in the words of the Baditchev, it says, to divest the matters from the Megashmias, but that's we're tethered to Gashmias, and the mind is Gashmi, but to whatever degree, each one on their own level, the ideas become conceptual rather than visual. That takes great toil to make progress in that way of thinking. It's part of what its abundance is to train the mind to think in conceptual terms and keep on stripping it from imagery. Hakoponim, where he's not finished by any means, by any stretch, in understanding Zman. And it'll help us. You have a copy? It's up there. Yeah, not in the regular place. You can bring your chair a little bit. You want to sit there comfortable there? All right. 199 is Daled. Even as we just explained now, that the Seder of Zmanim is in the 10 Sfiras, we come back, nonetheless, they're not the same. All about Tzilus. There's a difference between Moichin and Midas. Moichin and B'chinas Nistoris. Moichin altogether are hidden. Referring to the Pasuk, Anistaras L'Hashem Elokeinu, V'haniglois, V'haniglois is Vav, and Hey is Zoh and Malchus. That's Lono L'Vaneinu. Hanistoris goes on Eibishter's Moichin. V'kod B'Lo'ilam, and they are higher than creation. In Pashtus, it goes on Torah, and Torah precedes creation. So v'hamidas him sheresh la'olamus. It's the midas that are the source of olamus. I said, Olam chesed yiboneh. Hashem is speaking, the world should be built through chesed. And therefore, since the midas are the ones that are more intimately, directly connected to us, therefore this division of zmanim ruchni is more pronounced and more present in the midas, not in the Olam HaSeichel of the Eibishter's Chachma and Bina and so on. As it goes on to say, V'lochen the Ike is Chalkos, the Seder Azmanim, or B'shisha HaMidos, the Ike is Chalkos is in the midas, Mem Nimshach Achakach Hadei HaMalchos Metzias Azman B'Biyah. As you can see, there's also the integration, more integration in Seichel than in midas. When you're experiencing Ava, there's no room for fear when the heart is filled of love. But in Seichel, as we learned, in Chachma and Bina, you still have to have the Nakud of Chachma. In Bina, if you lose the Nakud, Bina goes haywire, it loses the point. They're not separate worlds to that same degree that Midas are. And even in Chachma, the potential of all of the development is present there as well. So we see that the division there is not as hard and fast as it is in Midas. So, הם נמשך אחר כך על ידי המלכוס מציאס הזמן בביאה, ששום הוא מציאס זמן ממש. That's where the מציאס הזמן happens is in ביאה. And then of course all the way down here is זמן גשמי. It reminds me at the end of this whole discussion, I'll share with you, I don't think we ever did this, no. One of the Rishimas that they found after Gimel Tammuz, so there were several scientific inyonim, physics, that Rabbi explained Beruchnius. And one of them is the circle, namely the ratio, the explaining the ratio of pi, and hence the radius, just to remind you of our grade 6 mathematics. Pi is, if you take the radius, no, so that's the, no.
Pi r squared is the circumference.
Is the circumference, no, the relative to what? It's how many times the radius goes around the circumference, the circle. No, it's 3 point. No, 1 second. The whole diameter, the whole diameter, the radius is from the center. The diameter, a line from one point, a straight line to the other line. If you simply take that, and map it around the circumference of the circle, that's pi. And that's 3 point in infinite string of numbers. Therefore, that's the radius. That's the diameter. The radius, which is half that. In other words, you go from the center, take that as a piece, as a rope, and map that around. That's double pi. It's 6 and an infinite number. Correct? So the whole beer there is man. The circle is the most natural shape in nature. Drop a pebble into water, the world itself, or the spheres. The square is the most unnatural shape. That's why tefillin have to be square. Because tefillin will bring out, our contribution to Dira B'Tachtonim. That's why it's so central. Be perfectly square. It's the most unnatural shape. But the circle, so just giving you a heads up, that the center is Shabbos, and Shabbos lends this infinite property to the weekdays. It's the 6 weekdays, that's Zoh, plus this infinite unquantifiable fraction. It's simply unquantifiable. You're closer and closer and closer. That's how they used to test computers apparently, is how quickly and how many numbers it can spit out for pi, or this is now double pi simply, we're just doubling it. But from the center to every, so that's 6, that's Zoh plus this infinite input that comes from the center of Shabbos, Tashpah of Shabbos. So it's connected to this. So I'll try and find the original. We'll learn it inside. It's fascinating. Another thing that Rabbi did, I think we learned, was explaining Baruchnis of Mamash Moededik, the difference between solids and liquids pressure on a surface. The pressure exerted by liquid matter and solid matter, and how all of these properties reflect the ruchnis on the nefesh and our impact on the world. The fluid impact, the solid impact. Pascal's law, all of the contemporary laws of science explained b'pnimiyus ha'inyanim. Okay. We did that, I think. No? Years ago. No. It's worth doing. Yankee Tauber wrote it up with the help of Professor Branover. It was published in the Science and Torah journal. Branover put out Be'er HaTorah. There's like 12 or 15, I don't know how many journals now. Haven't seen it in a while. And they're all articles contributed by scientists of all stripes. Science and Torah, fascinating stuff. I'm sure for scientists. Dr. Brow has contributed to it. So there is this elaborate article with diagrams of these laws of physics and their details and their ruchnistic dimension. Maybe we'll do that. Okay. So let's continue. So he's saying now that the true ischalkus happens in the midas, not so much in seichel. Because it's the midas that create the days, the time. Sunday, first day, second day. Doesn't it say? The 6 midas are the 6 days. And in the bigger picture, the 6 days are the mochor of the 6,000 years that the world exists. As the Medrash says, Hashem's days, 1 day is 1,000 years. From every midah l'mayla nimshech hatei malchus, so then filtered through malchus, what emerges is miztiyas man shal elef shana b'biyah, 1,000 years of biyah. Ukiyadua, and this is what happened in the span of history. Shebele Fadishin, as explained in Kabbalah, the first 1,000 years. So what was made? Then here chesed. It was primarily Hashem's chesed. They were sustained with Hashem's chesed without having to be worthy of it until things got completely corrupted. Then became gvura. Then that's why there was the mabel. And in the third millennium, that's when Tiferes begins to illuminate. Tiferes is the fusion and the Shleimus of Chesed and Gevurah by Matan Torah, therefore there's Matan Torah, which is Shleimus, Tiferes, Chibur of Elyon and Tacht and Chesed and Gevurah. Shambain, Hillel, it's all there. The Ramban explains, he goes through history and he points to how all the millennia, each millennia corresponds to another midah. So that's Bechlal. But then the Ramshocha breaks down to greater detail. Each year is one detail in that 1,000-year grouping. And the year itself is all incorporated in Rosh Hashanah. He's just showing it's all dargis. It's all inextricably, the time is inextricably, that the word inexorably, bound with the dargis, that it's its source. So each year is Nichal Rosh Hashanah, Shakir L'Sachai Shakol Hashanah, that incorporates the life force of the whole year. And then it's manifested to 12 months. And further, each month is a Rosh Chodesh. And each month then is Koilol, and there emerges in more and more detail the Chayis of each individual day. So what did he say now? He said now that the real relative division begins with not so much Moichel L'Mayla, but Zoh. As Zoh, as it's filtered through Malchus, and what emerges as a result of that is 1,000-year lots, and each one then later emerges and plays itself out in years and months and days. All rooted in the Seder Azmanim of the 6 Midas. Not finished. An interesting question. I don't know if this question is asked anywhere else. I don't see them. Maybe we'll look at the footnotes. Interesting shaila. We have to understand in light of that, therefore, the following. Why is it then? Shabbos only includes the 6 days. The name is Baruch and Kula Yom. From it, all the days, the following days of the week are blessed. What's the shaila? How does Shabbos till the Mayim Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh is Kula the whole month. Shabbos is higher than Rosh Chodesh. So why is Shabbos limited only to a week? Moreover, l'mayla gam Rosh Hashanah. Shabbos is even higher than Rosh Hashanah. The Hinde, he explains now. Shabbos l'mayla Rosh Chodesh. Shabbos is higher than Rosh Chodesh. So Rosh Chodesh mutar b'asiyas malacha. We can see that Rosh Chodesh can do malacha. The Shabbos also be malacha, which means it's holier. V'chein b'pnimis ha'inyan, and now b'pnimis. Why? The niyatam Rosh Chodesh lo nichlal b'mei ha'maisa. So on the one hand, yeah, I mean, there's certain malachas, I guess he's referring to, we don't do on Rosh Chodesh, to a certain degree. So it's not reckoned in the ordinary Meya Maisa. Why? Then let's say Shabbos is high still. If it was the Mile of Rosh Chodesh. Well, if it's Meya Maisa, during the week days of the month, Mekabel es ha-malchus b'chinas ha-chochma al-yedei zah. So malchus, it gets from chochma being the window, the first level. Chochma is the opening level. It's mamshech alikus. Chochma is keli fein sof. So how does malchus get from chochma? It's through the intermediary of zah. Hence, it's a very limited hashpah, and therefore it's the world of our world of action. It's limited, and creates and governs and is nimshach in the world of ma'aseh b'poel. Mashenki, but Rosh Chodesh, it's a transcendent level. Mekabel es malchus. Rosh Chodesh is malchus. It's the month. But here the month is mekabel es mechachma shelo yedei zah. It's a direct hashpah of chachma, not through zah. So therefore, Rosh Chodesh is not reckoned in the mehamaisa. There's an element of transcendence to it, not completely, but element of transcendence, and not completely because of, we call malchus b'mkoima. Malchus remains b'mkoima, which is the source of time and space, our world. But it's drawn directly, a direct hamshacha from chachma. Therefore, there's certain relative level of transcendence, disengagement of the world, and therefore it's not reckoned in the Yemei HaMaisa, which is the mile of Rosh Chodesh over the ordinary bit. Is that clear? As we said, there's certain things you don't do Rosh Chodesh. Women for sure don't work on Rosh Chodesh. It's a quasi Yom Tov.
So it's saying how is Rosh Chodesh different from regular day? That's what I mean?
Yeah. So Mashenkin Shabbos, but it's very subtle. Why? B'pnimius, because Malchus remains where it is. It just gets, Malchus is the source of time, Zman, Hashem Melech, Molech, which ultimately is Elam Hazeh, Bia. So Rosh Chodesh is still firmly part of, in the general sense, Elam HaMaisa, Bia in other words. Mashenkin Shabbos, Shabbos is a gilui of Meichen Dab itself, not filtered through Zah. Shem Lamayr Legamri B'chines HaMalchos, completely beyond Malchos. It doesn't say it here, maybe he's going to, but Shabbos is the Aliyah, V'chol HaShemayim V'aretz, is the Aliyah of Malchus on Shabbos. The Pasuk says that a person on Shabbos, it's Hashem's promise, that if you don't pursue your desires, and you don't speak, then the whole promise there of Nachla Bli Mitzorim, that is bequeathed to every Jew. But how is Shabbos defined? Not pursuing your desires, not speaking your words. The Kivin Shabbos why don't we speak? Why ought we not speak about worldly things on Shabbos? Because Baruchni is the Eibush is not speaking the way he speaks during the week, which is speech conceals that which is invested in the speech. The whole, all of creation is drawn inward to the Eibush's machshava. So that's what's happening on Shabbos, and therefore our speech is different. And therefore in the Olam ha'achdus, and if we don't venture out from the Rishus HaYachid to the Rishus HaRabim, we don't carry anything, we don't break that boundary. So Shabbos is completely higher than Rosh Chodesh. But Malchus ascends into a higher world, from the world of Dibur to the world of divine Machshava. So it's Hayden Rosh Chodesh. Or can make in Shabbos Ulamayne Gam Rosh Hashanah. Shabbos is Hayden Rosh Hashanah. Then Rosh Hashanah mitzvah sayim b'shofar, as we learned. Rosh Hashanah the mitzvah the day is b'shofar. K'may Merazal im lefanim malchus, say before me malchus, zichronis, and so on. And how will you make me king at the end? Ubameh b'shofar. Shashofar ulamayla gam lebechinas malchus v'zichronis. Shofar on the end is high, then malchus and zichronis b'shalachem nimshachal yadi bechinas malchus zichronis. All of malchus and zichronis only are effectual. How does the quote end? Bameh, all of the above, your mention and sovereignty, it all happens through shofar. So, bottom line of Rosh Hashanah is Tkiyah shofar. B'yom Tov Shashon is b'Shabbos, as we learned when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbos, ein tzarich tkiyah b'shofar. We don't have to blow the shofar. Why? Because you don't need shofar. Shabbos itself is mamshich. So now is the question. We've just now laid out that Shabbos is higher than Rosh Chodesh and higher than Rosh Hashanah. If so, the Kivin Shema Shabbos Ulamayne Rosh Chodesh Ulamayne Gam Rosh Hashanah, and the movement's not understood. Madua Yom Shabbos. The higher we go, we learned the more primal. So the more from it later will descend all of these chalkos. It's further removed from his chalkos and incorporates far more later manifestations. Like explained, that Chesed Atzilus is the Mochor of the 1,000 years of Chesed of Biyah, as it were. But then it's chaluk and the Shonim and then and so on. So Shabbos is higher than Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is Keilu the whole year. Why is Shabbos only incorporating what emerges only is these 6 days? Rosh Chodesh incorporates 29 or 30 days. Rosh Hashanah Keilu is called Me'ashana, and Rosh Hashanah is Keilu the entire year. Why? Why Elul is not a Yom Tov? Similar, yeah, the Gimid Sarachamim, and it's transcendent, and therefore should not be bound in the Seder Hazmanim. Similar question, yeah. Yeah.